Am I the meanest?
Sure enough.
Am I the prettiest?
Sure enough.
Am I the baddest mofo low down around this town?
Sure enough.
Well, who am I?
Sure enough.
Who am I?
Sure enough.
I can't hear you.
Sure enough.
Hey folks, how are you? Phil Davis, Ancestrylands, ancestrylands.com. How are you folks? You're now live with Uncle Phil, right?
You're now listening to
Folks, how are you? I'm so happy to be back. I'm very happy that let me just make sure the sound is right? Gotta make sure the sound is correct here. Pro chat. Are we right here, folks? All right. Can everybody hear me out there in the chat? Please let me know if you can. I would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to make sure that you're
now listening to
you're now live with Uncle Phil, folks. I'm back. Did you miss me? I miss me. I hope you miss me. Not everybody misses me, folks. You know what? I'm what do you call a refined desired taste any which way, folks. You know, I've been out. You saw it live with Uncle Phil, on the road with Uncle Phil. We're doing some on the road stuff, folks. We got some interesting topics to talk about today. We really do. I'm gonna say let me make sure everybody can hear me in the chat there, man. Shout out to everybody, man. I hope you all are having a good day. What's today? Monday, the 20th. It is now what, noon actually on the West Coast there. Everyone's just finishing up or should be just about to hit the lunch hour. And on the East Coast, it's about 3. So people getting off of work. So you're still live with Uncle Phil, lunchtime somewhere, right? Folks, what's been going on in the world? You know, I'm sorry for last week, folks. Last week, you know, I'm traveling, doing my other life, other things to do, personal life stuff, working as a nurse, saving the world. Save the cheerleader, save the world, you know.
Are you serious?
We've been told so much of what's going on in the news. Well, let me get into my travels. You know, once a month I do travel to California. I'm working as a nurse. Um, I work in Northern California. That's where I do my nursing. I go out there. I go out there for um, you know, to do my hours, to work in the community and take care of. That's where, you know, my wife and my family came from. We came from the Northern California area. That's where we left to come back here on the Pennsylvania side of the United States now. And I do still retain my nursing license. I still do practice nursing. Been off for 6 months, and now I've come back a hell of a time too as well. It's great out there, rained every day. Never seen it so wet out there in California. I think maybe when I first came there, it was that much. And as soon as I'm gone, the whole world is going to hell. I mean, literally, we had bank failures going on. I don't know what's happening. And we got to say a rest in peace. We found out that Lance Riddick, he died from the John Wick, the John Wick series. The John Wick, he was the I believe hotel recipient, the hotel manager, whatever you want to call it, not manager, because I think that was played by a different person. I always get him confused with Gabriel Burns, the gentleman at there. But any which way, Lance Riddick, folk, if you don't know who he is, he played Lieutenant Daniels and the HBO series The Wire. He has passed away this Friday. I believe he was, he was very good actor, man. Very, very good actor. Age 60. You know, my father is younger than my father, and he passed away. And that's crazy that, you know, he passed so suddenly. And there's a whole bunch of drama going on with him. He's been married to his wife since 2011, and we do send our condolences to the Riddick family. I didn't know this guy he's so popular, and it seems like he was up and coming. If you've never seen The Wire, HBO The Wire, man, it was a great series. He played Lieutenant Daniels, man, and he was just great in playing opposite to Avon Barksdale and Stringer Bell, you know, played by Idris Elba and Wood Harris. Any which way, folks, we got a litany of things to talk about this Monday. How are you all doing this Monday? I can't understand what is going on in the world. We have the most pressing things going on right now with the bank failures, with the Signature Bank, the Silicon Valley Bank, and I do want to talk to regular people a little bit about, why it's more important right now to own land because as you can see, these bailouts are happening. They say they're not bailouts, but we know that this is somewhat going to be centered on the taxpayer funds. And right now, the fix is in that the wealthy people are being covered. And if this were to happen to you and I's banks, we would be out of money. And I think there's a lot of banks buying up some of the assets in these failing banks, and now we get the news that another 186 banks are potentially, they're kind of in danger of failing themselves. Uh, Interesting thing, while I was traveling, the Silicon Valley thing was happening. Most people you talk to, I want to say probably under 35, no idea this is going on. I've talked to younger females under 35. They have no clue what's happening. They have no clue how that relates. And one of the reasons why I'm going to talk about this a little bit is because this is an indication of why young males need to pay attention. If you go and I'm asking nurses, I'm talking about people that can save your life if they needed to. I asked a nurse, a couple nurses, have you heard about the bank failing? What? Huh? No clue this is going on. No clue. These people know how to save your life in an emergency, but they couldn't tell you about what's going on in financial world. And I asked the nurse, you ever heard about this happening? And she says, nah, just let my boyfriend tell me about it. I have a big problem with that. You know why? It's because to the young man that's dating this nurse, who I will not talk to, I work with this nurse, very nice nurse, very cute nurse for being in her young 20s. So she could have her pick of men out there. And that's great when you're dating. When you have a family, when you are in a coupledom relationship, coupledom, I'm going to say coupledom, not an actual, you don't need to be married, but when you're commingling finances or you're having disagreements, arguments over leadership decision making skills. You've heard me talk about it in the videos on the road with Uncle Phil, how I was talking about to young men about, them leading. They want to be millionaires. Young men out there want to be millionaires. You want to be a leader. And in order to lead, this is why that young girl saying that is a problem. And she's not young. She's younger than me. I'm 42. She's in her mid to late 20s. That's young. When you're at that age, you're in relationships, you're living with someone, you're dating, and you're having night fun. Ooh, yeah, with a girl. You're getting you're getting busy at night, and everything is fun. Right? There's no real responsibilities. Well, as you start to develop more in a relationship, you start to take on real life situations. You get a house, you buy cars, you put things in joint accounts, joint names, maybe you have separate accounts, but still, the someone has to lead and make decisions. A lot of times in a perfect world, the leader everyone can have a shared opinion. Everyone can say what they feel, and then all those decisions get moved forward, and everyone's happy with a leader taking in everyone's opinions. Opinions are not necessarily valid when it comes to outcomes. In the case of Silicon Bank, that we've seen now, these failings. And when you're in life, you're dealing with people, you're in a relationship with people. If they have no clue about what the hell is going on in the world, then they're not people you should consider listening to. They are following. Part of the problem I had with listening to this young woman is that she had no clue what was going on with the bank failing and how that relates to her potential finances. And what I saw was a person getting by on being cute rather than being qualified. I'm going to say that again. I saw a woman getting by on being cute rather than being qualified. The reason why I'm going to say that is that for all you young men out there and young women out there, cute is okay when you're dating. Cute is okay when you're single. When you start to have a family, you start to have bills, house, mortgages. Cute no longer serves a purpose as qualified does. Qualified becomes more important then, becomes very much more important. And the reason being is that cute is no longer a prerequisite for a mortgage to be paid. How to handle a mortgage, how to understand closing packages, things like that. Your looks no longer matter when outcomes are the things that are more desirable at that point. When you have children, outcomes are more things that matter. The bills and the finances come first. Although at that stage, I can see her still using her cuteness to her advantage, and that's her prerogative. The problem is when a man is deciding to lead a woman, you're submitting to her cuteness rather than your leadership. The qualifications of what makes you capable are now called into question because her authority is because of her cuteness, not because of her qualifications. So you're trying to satisfy someone who's cute but not qualified to be in any leadership roles or authority. In order to be a leader, you have to be in the know. You have to know what's going on. How would we feel if our president had no clue that the banks were failing? You would consider him a poor leader. Well, the same goes for your household. If a person is unaware of simple things that are going on in the form of current events, then it would make them not in the know for when disasters or things that are coming down the line are going to be relevant and they impact you and your family. Those things are important. And the thing about those things is they're not sexy. That's the one thing about being a leader that most people don't understand. Being a leader from a follower standpoint is sexy because you have power. But with power, as we know, comes responsibility. And the responsibility that comes with that power is super stressful. It's a headache. It's a problem. It's not easy being a leader. Most of the time, people desire leadership because they desire its power, but they do not desire its responsibility because once they're in those leadership roles, they quickly want to abdicate that role because they don't like it as a fit. Well, if you're a leader, you can't have someone temporarily be in those roles because the leadership is a permanent position. The king of a country or queen of a country usually is no longer a monarch unless they're one, overthrown, or two, they die in the form of old age or assassination, whichever comes first. Generally, it would be assassination, it would be just exit up out of here. But a king would always, if a king was still alive, a king's position of being a king would always be a threat to the stability of the current country or the current leaders in there. Case of the one of what is that, King Richard. Well, you have the Robin Hood story. I believe that was King Richard versus King John the Lionheart. When he left to go on the Crusades, he came back. He had to take over. King Richard didn't want to give it up. He had done so much damage because he was not a fit leader. It was not the same way as John the Lionheart, right? Seen that before play out in history. But what you had was someone jealous of the leadership role, but they were not qualified to lead. And that's what it is young men, do not give up your leadership or authority to someone who does not want the responsibility that comes with the authority. This is someone who doesn't want to take the hard road to do everything. They don't want to take the responsibility that comes with authority. This is my message to the younger men. And I've talked to those younger men that I met in the hospital. And one thing I was most disaffected about was their inability to understand what is required with real leadership. With real leadership, a leader who makes an apology is a weak leader. I'll tell you why. And I had this discussion with younger men because while the leader is sitting here trying to make everyone happy, your job is to lead. You do something wrong as a leader, you never apologize. They're not going to like that one because they're going to say, hey, Phil, you should always admit when you make a mistake. Got it. Yes, that is true. Not when you're the leader. Reason being, and I told these young men that, is that, and again, let me find a delineation here. When you are a good leader, not a bad one, you should never apologize for making a mistake. When you are a bad leader, you should be removed from leadership. Got it? That's the difference between why a leader, a good leader, should never apologize. A bad leader should be removed, but a good leader should never apologize. The reason being is that When you are a leader, if you go and make a mistake, you should learn and improve upon that mistake. You shouldn't apologize for it, because apologizing means you've done something wrong, which is not something a leader does. A leader makes decisions, and decisions have outcomes, good or bad. A good decision can end up having a bad outcome out later on down the line. For instance, you know, a good decision was the people in Germany during the time of the, with the Second World War, when the people in there were being put in camps and the United States decided to bring them over. You had people like Albert Einstein. Those great minds came over, and those scientists ended up creating the atom bomb. Now, while it was good to bring those minds so they would not be killed over there in Germany at the time because they were a different ethnicity, it still led to an outcome of the atom bomb being created, which was later used in Japan and Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And again, that scientific discovery will put us at the forefront, being the dominant military power, had bad outcomes when it was dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because there were there was thousands of people who were injured and or killed by that bomb that dropped there. Okay, so that's again how sometimes a good decision can have bad outcomes, even though it's initially received as good, which is why, again, a leader should never apologize. A good leader should never apologize. A bad leader should be removed. And why I say that a good leader should never apologize is because if you apologize for decisions that are made, you're making a decision based upon what's presented in front of you. You're making a decision based upon outcome or multiple set of outcomes, which you have no idea of their intended or actual effect that is the outcome. People will then judge you on the outcome that is relevant to how they benefit. They will not judge those outcomes based upon the decision alone. They're judging they're judging the decision on the outcome. They're not judging it on the decision itself. And many of the time, the people who are judging you for a good or bad decision as a leader will judge you purely on the outcome and will not be the person that will be in the position of making that decision. Let me say that again. The people who judge you as a leader are not the people that would ever willingly step into the seat where those decisions have to be made to take that responsibility. I'm saying that again for everyone who doesn't understand exactly what I'm saying. You as a leader are now tasked with having to make hard decisions in your life. Okay. When you're making those hard decisions, people will tend to criticize you or judge you based upon the outcomes of those decisions. Okay. But the people who are judging you good or bad about those decisions would not sit in the chair of responsibility to make those decisions as you are while you're making those decisions by yourselves. They are simply relying on you to make those decisions, and they get to judge whether they like the outcomes. The leader, as these young men I'm trying to point out to refining their leadership, is that you are being reactive to someone else's response to you being proactive. Can't do that. Can't do that, because their response is in direct correlation to them not having to take the responsibility to make that decision in the first place. If they did not have you there, they would have to make those decisions and take those outcomes as they come, good or bad for them. And they would only be solely responsible for their decision when making those decisions and those outcomes. There's no one else to blame. It's easy to blame someone and say they should have went left when they should have went right when you're not driving. But a lot of times, the reason why you're saying they should have went right when they went left is because you as a passenger are in a bad spot. As long as they keep making decisions and take you to the appropriate destination, you assume that they're good leaders. But again, a true leader understands that you're making the decisions because you're the one responsible for that decision. You are understanding that the decision has to be made. Most people who are not leaders cannot make decisive decisions. And the Girl in that situation that I'm bringing up as a nurse is with a man who is a decision maker. But what happens in these roles of authority is the decision maker starts to abdicate that authority to people who are non decision making people. They are opinionated people. And that is the problem. A leader, a decision maker should never apologize to opinionated people because the opinion people, the only thing they can do is say whether someone else's decisions are good or bad. And 9 times out of 10, they do not have the results to show that their decisions would be better. They are only post decision maker judges. That's it. It's like Tom Brady when he didn't make it to the Super Bowl. Everybody said you should throw the receiver over there, but you don't have 300-pound men chasing you down. And maybe you couldn't even make the pass that he missed. You can't even get it to the potential receiver. I'm just saying. And I told him a good leader should never apologize. And the reason being is that once you start apologizing for decisions that you've made, every decision afterwards will be in question, whether good or bad. Every decision will be in question, whether good or bad. Once you start apologizing down for a bad decision being made, every decision afterwards will be second guessed. Every decision. If it is good or bad, another person can use your mistake as a reason to challenge your authority in every decision afterwards. And it generally is a person from a weaker position that is looking for you to apologize. It's the gaining of power. Once you do that because you're operating under some kind of compassionate template, that's not what leaders do. When you go to war, losses or casualties of war are to be accounted for. Whenever a president has to apologize for, I'm sorry, whenever a president has to meet families of soldiers lost at war, he doesn't apologize for his decision. He apologizes for their loss. It's a key point right there. Whenever you see a president go before fallen veterans or fallen soldiers, the president never apologizes for his decision to go to war. He apologizes for the loss of the life. That is a key indicator there when I talk about with leadership. The reason why is that the president would never apologize for deciding to go to war because casualties of war are part of that choice. That is accepting the responsibility that comes with authority. Because the loss of life is part of going to war. It's accounted for. That's part of the decision. It comes with the authority. That's why you don't apologize. And if a president did that, every war that the United States would go to, or any leadership that would decide to go to war, you would have so much infighting, it would destroy an army. It would destroy a movement to go to fight for whatever the cause is that the leader decides they're fighting for. It does not create unity within one camp, it creates disunity. A general can never have captains fighting over the general's decisions when a general says to go right. He could say, go right into a lava pit. The troops are to follow. That's what a leader should do. Will a leader make mistakes? Absolutely. But mistakes is part of leadership. Mistakes are not to be apologized because the leader is going to make mistakes. That is part of the role of a leader. And also, you take the outcomes that come with that failure of leadership, which is the reason why a leader who makes too many mistakes is considered a bad leader, and that leader should be outed as a leader. So, once someone more capable can be in that role. And what you see now with a lot of government leaders, people who got in there because even with this bank, you got people in there that I have they check off the box for what is the we need this into leadership. And that's the problem with these banks. You've got people in there who are identifying themselves as the leader. They do not have the qualifications to be the leader. They're saying we should be the leader because we represent this segment or population. We're underserved, we're underrepresented. We are not this or that or binary or whatever areas that you want, but they are not qualified for the position. So when the real responsibility comes, you see that what they do is they sell off their stock shares and they do for themselves. They don't go down with the bank, they tend to save themselves. Real leaders go down with the ship. You know why? Because that's the responsibility for the authority. The captain goes down with the ship. Do you understand why? Because that's the responsibility for the authority. When someone says they won't go down with the ship, they are not a leader, they are a mercenary or an individualist. A leader has to make decisions for the whole, not for themselves. That is, unless the decision for themselves benefits the whole. And that can be seen by the outcomes of what they do to benefit themselves. If a leader made themselves the strongest warrior in a fight, then it would benefit the whole making a decision to strengthen yourself because you could defeat the army or serve as an overwhelming power structure to help your weaker members out. But when the weaker member wants to be at the front, when the pressure hits, they crack, they usually fall back behind and leave everything in shambles. They do not go down with the ship. This is why I say a leader, a real leader, a true leader never apologizes. Weak people want a leader to apologize. Part of leading is making good or bad decisions. That's what leadership is. And when you make a bad decision, you make a series of decisions afterwards to improve upon the bad decision that you've made to not make that bad decision again. Any person that would tell you, well, I made the bad decision and won't desire to improve upon it or benefit or strengthen that bad position and will just chalk it up to, whatever else, that means they're not learning. That's not a person you should follow. These are some of the tenets of what real leadership should be. And I know people are going to struggle with that one. But when I told these young men is that once you start apologizing, you've now exposed the weakness that someone can exploit. You've now exposed the weakness that others outside your inner circle can exploit because doubt now can be casted in your leadership. Once doubt is casted, unity soon breaks down. Disunity and disgruntledness and resentment start to build up. I've said it before, Alexander the Great, he had a time where his soldiers were weary. I think that's where they were crossing into India, if I'm right on my history. People in the chat can always correct me. It was a point where he had to put down a mutiny. People who were unhappy with him trudging on. They wanted to go back to Macedonia to live off the spoils of war. They wanted to see their families, their children. Alexander still had his eyes on going to the edge of the known world and beyond. That was his destiny as a leader. That's what he sought after. When he first stepped to march to go after Persia, that the end of his life was also part of the beginning of his life because the journey in his leadership, that's where he was headed. His soldiers were following. And once they rose up against him, and he told them, it's an impeccable speech, man. It really is an impeccable speech. Let me see if I can get that speech up. I'm going to see if I can pull that speech up without actually going into great detail, but I just want to see the closed captions of it. And it's a beautiful speech. If you've ever This is Alexander the Great. He at Opus, he faced a mutiny by his Macedonian troops. Angered that he would send some of them home while appearing to give preference to his new Asian subjects, adopting many of their customs. He dealt ruthlessly with the ringleaders before making a speech to his army, which he berated his troops. So I'm going to read this to you all. All right. So, in a brilliant 10-year campaign, Alexander and his Macedonian army conquered much of the known world from Egypt to the Indus River. In 324 BC, they returned to the Opus near modern Baghdad, where Alexander ordered some of his Macedonian veterans to return home. But angry at perceived insults to their honor, as well as Alexander's adoption of Persian customs, they mutinied. According to the ancient historian Arrian, Alexander executed 13 ringleaders before confronting the army. His exact words are not known, but the modern historian believed the Arrian records of the essence of the real moment in history as passed down by eyewitnesses. So people talked about what they heard him say, and this is during that time of that speech. Okay. He's like, what I'm about to say isn't meant to stop you from returning home. As far as I care, you can go wherever you wish. But I want you to know how you have behaved towards me and how I have treated you. I begin as it's right with my father, Philip the first king, Philip the second of Macedonia. When he found you, you were mere peasants, wearing hides, tending to a few sheep on the mountain slopes. You could barely defend them from your neighbors. Under him, you began to live in cities with good laws and customs, and he turned you from slaves into rulers over those very barbarians who plundered your land, who used to plunder your land. He conquered most of Thrace, taking the best harbors, so there was a trade and prosperity, and put the mines to steady work. This is his speech at the Opus. The Thessalians used to terrify you. We now rule them. I guess it's Thessalians from Thessaly. And the Athenians and Thebans, always looking for a chance to attack Macedonia, were so humbled, myself playing a small part in the war, that they took no, I'm sorry, let me just, they no longer took tribute. I'm trying to capture from Macedonia, but instead depend on us for protection, trying to capture his essence of a speech. My father went to the Peloponnese and put their house in order. Then he was declared supreme commander of all the Greeks for the campaign against the Persians, an honor, not just for himself, but for all Macedonians. This is what my father Philip did for you. Great enough on its own, but small compared to what you've gained from me. That's an amazing part statement. He continues, I crossed the Hellespont, even though back then the Persians still commanded the sea. I defeated the satraps of the great King Darius and made you rulers of Ionia. What is that? Elios and Phrygia and Lydia, and took Miletus by siege. This is a beautiful speech. The rest of the land surrendered willingly, and the wealth became yours. All the riches of Egypt and Cyrene, which I won without a fight, are yours now. What did he say here? Syria, Palestine, Mesopotamia, Babylonia, all belong to you. The wealth of Lydia and the treasures of Persia, the jewels of India and the outer sea. You are now satraps. You are generals and captains. What have I held back from myself apart from this purple cloak and diadem? Nothing. No man can point to my riches, only the things I hold in trust for you all. And what did I do with them anyway? I eat what you eat. I get no more rest than you. That's a key and point in there. Many times I spent the night on watch so you could sleep soundly. Who among you believes he worked harder for me, than I am for him? I'm sorry. Let me rewind that back. Yo, this is game right here. This is a speech to other men as a leader would. This is something that you could say to a woman and she would never respect you for this one. He's saying this to men. Who among you believes he's worked harder for me than I have for him? Let me stop right there. Ask your woman, does she believe she has worked harder for you than you have for her? Come on. If you got stars, strip down and show them to me. I'll show you mine. There isn't one part of my body, the front at least, that does not bear a wound. My body's covered in scars from every weapon you can think of: swords, arrows, stones, and clubs, all for the sake of your lives, your glory, and your wealth. And yet here I am still, leading you as conqueror of land and sea, rivers and mountains and plains. We've celebrated our weddings together. Many of your children will be cousins of my own. I paid off your debts without asking how you've got them, even though you're paid well enough and pillage every city we take. Many of you wear golden crowns, badges of courage, honor given to you by me. Any one of us who was killed, who met a glorious end, we buried with full honors. Many now stand immortalized by bronze statues in Macedonia. Their families are honored and pay no taxes. Dang, with him, no taxes. Under my command, not one man has been killed fleeing the army. And now I wanted to send you back, some of you who've been wounded or crippled or have grown old, to be welcomed back home as heroes. But since you all wish to go home, all of you, then all of you go. Go home and tell them that your king, Alexander, the conqueror of Persians, Medes, Bactrians, and Scythians, who now rules over Parthians, Commerzians, and Hyrcanians, as far as the Caspian Sea. I'm sorry, guys, I'm gonna mess this up. Who's marched over the mountains of the Hindu Kush, crossed the Oxus and the Tanius rivers, even the Indus, the first to cross it since Dionysius himself. I would have crossed the Hephaestus too if you hadn't cowered in fear. Who sailed into the great sea from the mouth of the Indus, crossed the desert of the Gedrosia, where no one had ever led an army, who took Carmenia while my fleet sailed the Persian Gulf. When you get back home, you tell them that when you made it back to Susa, you abandoned him and went home, leaving him under protection of the foreigners you conquered. Perhaps this report of yours will seem glorious in the eyes of men and worthy in the eyes of the gods. After the speech, the Macedonian troops begged Alexander for forgiveness, leading to an emotional reconciliation between the king and his army. Alexander began to plan further conquests, but in Babylon, less than a year later, he succumbed to an unknown illness and died at the age of 32. Why did I say that, folks? Why did I read that speech to you all? And the reason being is that, again, who in his army could say they have worked harder for him than he has for them? Made no apologies for the men that have lost lives. Made no apology for his decision to march. He's paid off debt, paid off taxes. Again, take this men into your relationships of what you've done. Economic benefit. And again, you have people wanting to go home just because now they're done. They've had their fill. But what did he do? He said he was staying behind. He told them they can go. A leader tells the people who don't want to be with them, they can go. Not I'm going to leave, they can leave. And they begged him to stay back. Now, many people probably wouldn't have that kind of humbleness, that humility to be able to say that. But one thing he was not going to do was let their will influence his. If he was going to meet his end, he would. He would meet it at 32 a year later. But he was going to continue on his journey. He was going to take his authority and keep his responsibility for having that authority. And what we saw in this speech, one of the greatest speeches in history, was a man who led with authority, but also took responsibility in that authority. So much so that other men begged when they heard his words, when they understood what a true leader was like. But the problem he had was he put down people that thought they could lead instead of Alexander. The ringleaders trying to tell everyone else that he was wrong. And what he said in that speech was that, what have I taken for myself that I have not given double to you? What have I not done for your family that I've done differently for myself or for my family? What debts have I cleared out of your accounts that you can say you cleared out of mine? And again, what you want is you want your cup to be filled full of happiness, while I have to take on pain, struggle, and fear, and all the other things that you don't want to taste in your cup. Correct? That's the problem. And that's why you do not submit to their demands. Not one time. You tell them they can leave. It's true. Very true. The speech here was by the greatest speech in history, Alexander the Great, and the Opus Mutiny. And you should take, and that's the problem with men today. You don't see the disagreeableness as a mutiny. If someone wants to lead, they should go out and find their own kingdom to lead, not try to take leadership from you. That is called a mutiny, and all the respects of the term. The captain tells you where to steer the ship. It could be a waterfall. You go over the waterfall. Other people try to think they're going in some way, and they could be thinking they're making the right decision, and they could destroy the whole ship because they do not understand what the captain knows. And if you don't have a captain that you want, then you should be removing them by going out and finding your own ship to lead. Okay. That's that. In other news, folks, to lighten it up a little bit, let's talk about some other thing. Rick Ross. Everybody knows Rick Ross, right, folks? Rick Ross, the boss, the boss. Rick Ross has a neighbor who fears that his escaped buffalo will harm her children. Really? Ross respond by calling the massive creatures gentle. I don't know about that one. It's just giving them snacks, like Scooby snacks. When you see my buffalo, give it a carrot. This is people, again, you thought people were bad. This is a picture of Rick Ross here in his buffalo rose. Buffalo soldiers. One of Rick Ross' neighbors told TMZ that his buffalo kept trespassing into her yard. What has she got? Like, if you have buffalo, you have to have acres. I think Rick Ross bought like 420 something acres, 420 some acres, which is a lot of land. That's like a million square feet. The buffalo's going over into her yards. Okay. She told the publication she feared for the safety of her children, not that she didn't like that brown or black buffalo bull being in her property. Ross addressed their escape in an Instagram story, thanking his neighbor for returning them. Rick Ross' buffalo had been escaping his promised land estate into the neighbor yards, much to her chagrin, which is frustration. The rapper and rancher Rick Ross, who lives in Fayetteville, Georgia, stand up, kept various animals on his property, including horses, cow, and a pair of buffalo, one of whom is named Timbuktu. That's the problem there. The buffalo Timbuktu is the issue. No black buffalo coming on my property. The buffalo were given to Ross last year for his birthday by a clothing company, Ethica, when he expanded his ranch. The unnamed woman, of course, who lives on a plot of land behind the rapper's property, told TMZ that the 2,000-pound animal crossed into her lawn twice this week, making her fear for the safety of her young children. She also shared videos of the animals tearing through her yard, chewing on the grass. In a video, the group of people can see ushering the pair of buffalo along with the cow off the property. So they got off the property, no problem. She said the incident resulting her attempting to confront Ross, not speak with them, and she only ended up spending it with a member of his team. And she plans to file a neighbor dispute with the city. I mean, why not? Is their land just open, or, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, In response to the headlines about his animals escaping his ranch, he took the Instagram story to make a statement that deters fears about his massive animals. They are just grazer, not meat eaters. That does not mean that they're not dangerous, Rose. He explained the animals escaped because of the work he was doing on the property and confirmed with members of the team uh, were the group that rounded up the escaped animals. So he had a team go after them. This wasn't like, he just let them go. He always keeps a collar on the so listeners' online statement to always keep a collar on their animals, although he contradicted himself, saying he did not keep a collar on his buffalo. I mean, come on, what are you going to walk a buffalo? And for everyone that's wanting to see a statement in response for my bulls, my cows, and a couple buffaloes that got away in the community, it's my response. Make sure you always keep a collar on your animal, and mine don't have a collar because it's mine. That's crazy. It is a little bit of responsibility, and this is one of the things to talk about. With all the land that he owns, he has animals, cows, buffalo, which make very good meat. By the way, I just want to let you know that. And again, this is land ownership. He's a rancher. He has quite a bit of acreage out there. I believe he bought like 420 some acres or something like that. So, um, and it is technically called a bison. So, but bison, if you've seen any videos about bison, definitely bison are very dangerous animals, and don't let anyone tell you any different. In other news, let's take it around the world now. Let's fly over to France. Did you all hear about this thing with pensions in France? That they're having an issue with the pensions in France. I just came across this article and I want to bring it to everyone's attention. Macron, Emmanuel Macron, President Emmanuel Macron, President of France, his government survives a no confidence vote over contentious pension plan. I have talked about this before, folks, with pension plans, government pension plans, and things of that sort. How we have pension plans kind of going away, and 401ks seem like they're on the rise too. I'm telling you all right now, if you haven't listened to this before, there's not going to 401ks are not going to be around forever, folks. Just them being offered. We are severely right now with the banking, what's going on with the banking industries right now. Um, the issue with 401ks, even pension plans on a whole, is that pension plans sometimes invest in some of these banks where they have some of the assets laid into crypto and other things like that to make sure that they get more money for their pensionees or their pension recipients. And part of the money that goes down in pension or your pension can be lost because of bad investment. You're not in control of your pension. Your pension is being invested by people who are hedge fund managers or people who are in the financial industries that are trying to make bets. And some of these newer technologies, such as crypto and other assets like FTX and things like that, your pension could be invested in these potential assets, if you will, or commodities. And that's going to be an issue when you're looking to retire and you're thinking that you have these things available to you and you do not. All right, so over to Paris, and you could tell Paris has been having some protests. Vive la France! We've had people out. Shout out to our French brothers out there. President Emmanuel, I thought I was French for a while. I was told that the family had some roots in France, but did some DNA tests and found out that was bullshit. So apparently, don't believe what you heard about your upbringing. You might want to do a spit test to confirm. President Emmanuel Macron survived a key vote on Monday. We won't get into the story too long. That could have collapsed his government and killed off his flagship pension reform that caused a countrywide protest of strikes. Now, if you think it's bad in our country, listen to this part. I did get it. So they had a no confidence vote, 278 in National Assembly, falling short of 287 needed to pass. Macron's long promised plan to raise the national retirement age from 62 to 64 sparked weeks of national strikes and demonstrations. So in our country, I think retirement age is 65. They wanted to raise it up 2 years. And I did do a story before saying how they want to raise that up to 67 or even 70. They want to raise the retirement age. And here we are, and France is doing it. And what people don't understand is that they're already talking about doing it here. And the reason why is that when people are living off at least government pension, people are living longer. You get somebody retire at 65 and literally live almost up to 95. That's 30 years of paying for someone in their life in the form of a pension. Okay. And I mean, you more people are living longer. That's not how pensions were really set up. The pensions were set up as a game is like, hey, people that die off, there'll be more money left. People leave money in the pension. Your wife gets half of the pension, which is generally how it works in America. Your wife gets half of the money. So the other half can kind of, for the overage. But now that more people are living longer, the pensions have to support people living for 20, 30 years after retirement. You don't want people living that long after retirement because you got to pay, I don't know, however many people are retirement in a pension fund for that long. And the money's going to run out at some point. So, you have things like COVID-19 coming up to kind of, balance out those accounts. The police said 4,000 protesters gathered in the Place d'Italie in southern Paris. That's how you say it if you got a French little thing going on. On Saturday, many chanted Macron resign. So they want him out of there. As trash bins were set alit, oh gosh, and officers responded by firing tear gas. See, it's already going on over there. More than 106 people were arrested across the country, the Interior Ministry said. Look at this. They're burning up stuff over there. People up there. Y'all see that? What do you got? What does he got? Okay. Mullets. They got mullets over in France, folks. So they're burning up stuff. Garbage depots up there. You got trash out on the streets. Look at this here. Could you imagine if this was your city that you living in? Person walking right past all of this here. This is how you create biological stuff going on, folks. Big time. So shout out to our people in France, man. Let's hope they work that out. I did want to get into one of the other stories here. Ooh, boy, I'm going to bring this one up right now. Y'all are going to love this one. So, oh, man, this is every father's nightmare here, right? So you're a dad. I have a daughter myself. Shout out to my daughter. She'll be home in about 30 minutes or so. But, man, this will break my heart. This is probably the main story here. This is our main story because there are a lot of if you're a dad. Okay, so if you're a dad, you had a mom, you have sisters, you have daughters. If you don't have daughters, you have females somewhere in there. You're a father. You're sending your daughter to college, right? You're paying for it because, again, I always tell people now you got OnlyFans, and that's what a lot of younger or maybe people a little bit older than my age, they don't understand. You got OnlyFans out there. You've got feet models, people that sell pictures of just their feet. You could just do a body part or whatever else, but there are so many ways for women to monetize themselves and in a sexualized way. It's being promoted out there in large. And the problem with that is that it's hard to convince a young person to do something that is morally right, that they feel is, kind of the slow way. And I think this is what this father had coming or ran across is that his daughter ended up being a stripper because, again, strippers can make good money. If you have the qualifications to do that kind of thing, you actually can make a lot of great money. The problem with it is that there's a whole bunch of other stuff that comes with that industry, things that's there. And again, the father has financial responsibilities to his daughter, but again, she's out there making her own money because most dads can't give her, or most men cannot provide their daughters with the lifestyle they could if they were doing something as stripping. And we know it's easy money. But again, what comes with that is drug problems. You have people could be stalkers. There's a whole world that's associated with that. And the father doesn't want his daughter doing that. He's providing with that. But if it's not enough for her to live off of, she's going to find other things to do, including the oldest profession in the book. So here we go. Maureen Mackey, this written by a woman. It's not written by a man, so there's no sexism involved. But a dad discovers his daughter's a stripper.
Damn daddy.
I should be. I don't even know. You know what I mean? So it's there. You know what I mean? So refuses to make her car payments any longer. It's my money. Is the dad right? He's saying, listen, man, baby girl, you're out there dancing on that pole. You know I ain't going for that. And guess what? You out here. Oh, man, we switched the article. My bad. He out here dancing on the pole. That's not what I'm paying you for. A father's making waves on Reddit saying he is no longer making car payments for his daughter that he's learned she's been working as a stripper. The post on Reddit's earned more than 20,000 reactions and over 6,000 comments. The man by the name of Using Living with Horse shared on a subreddit. I can't even. Am I the a-hole? his story of family drama and asked others for their input in the case. And people would say, why you go to, I can understand that, man. Sometimes dads, they may be too old to know or get it. He says a 47-year-old male who has a 22-year-old daughter. She's in college and lives there on campus. That's an adult. I agreed to help make car payments since she was in school. But the father recently learned from a young man he works with. Jeez. I don't even. Yo, you working with homeboy. He comes and tells you that your daughter is a stripper and she strips at a club about 40 minutes away. Yo, he's got a. Yo, oh man, yo, I probably would be on the Channel 10 news, man. I'd be on KTVU News up in Philadelphia, man. Like this would not go well with me. She's an adult. I wouldn't go well because either the heart attack or me going out there and like tearing stuff up. It would not be cool, man. She's 22, she's an adult. She do what she wants. She has a right. But also he's still financially paying for some things, and still technically she's not all the way independent. I would love for people to comment on this one because I know everything else I said from leadership to what else? Leadership or the Macron government, the pensions, all of that stuff. Everybody's gonna be like, look, man, we don't want to hear all of that stuff. Let's talk about the stripper. So the dad finds out his daughter is now stripping from a young co-worker. So you got a young guy, he takes himself, goes out to the strip club, and lo and behold, he sees your daughter there stripping. Young man. I mean, that's crazy. The man who did not share his location, Rod, confronted her, the daughter, about this, and she said she didn't plan to do it. What do you mean didn't plan to do it? You working as a stripper, but she needed some money. And he said he'd rather her work at McDonald's. McDonald's at minimum wage. Ain't nobody doing that, man. That's something I agree with as a father, man. Like, yo, you can't go expect your daughter to go out to work a minimum wage job and she's got this big old carrot dangling over here. And you're saying that, yo, go work at McDonald's and I'll pay for your car. Young people don't want it. They want the get money quick thing, man. And I agree with the father here. He said work at McDonald's and not make the use of her money. But here's the problem. There's no way you're going to tell a young person you should work for 15 or 16 or minimum wage when you could make $2,000 a week. Or if you're good, $2,000 a day. To me, you can't. That they don't have the moral fortitude to see how much further down the line it's going to hurt them. You can't expect a 22-year-old to understand that when they're talking dollars and cents. He went on to say, we got into an argument. I asked her to quit scripting and get a decent job then. She refused. And again, here we go. She said scripting was easy money. All I got to do is dance on a pole and show them my holes, and I got it. He's like, and the father says this. So basically, there was no need for me to make her pay a car payment any longer because she was making money so easily. And here we go. Just like I said before, man. It never stops. Here we go. Authority without responsibility. Remember, I talked about it. He's saying, listen, I'm being the person that has the authority. I'm making payments and sending you money to pay for your car. You decide to start scripting. I'm not happy about that because if you're making easy money, what you got me paying for this for, right? And in any typical young woman fashion that turns into an older woman, she got upset, said it wasn't fair, right? It wasn't fair. And she doesn't make enough for that. I told her to figure it out, right? Like a father should. And here's the problem. In comes the people coming in to affect your rule, right? Now, again, the father has to understand something. If you're going to tell a 22-year-old girl to go out there and stop making thousands, which she can make $17 an hour, sit there and deal with people ordering at McDonald's all day, throwing French fries and all of that stuff, you got another thing coming. But at the same time, you can't sit there and expect that this girl to sit and say she's going to rationalize that. And she's not going to understand the long-term effects of her decisions right now. So again, he goes to, this is what I'm talking about with your leadership. He goes to another presumably logical person. Said, I told my wife about it, his wife. And what happened? My wife is upset by her job of choice, but says it's unfair for me to stop supporting her so suddenly over an argument. And again, here we go. Right? Here we go. The wife is saying that it's not fair for her to stop supporting her daughter, even though she's upset about her scripting. That the dad said, fine, if you're making easy money, I told you to stop doing it. I'm paying for your car payment. You're saying that you want to stop because it's easy money. This is a life choice you're making. And I still have to be financially responsible. And what does the wife say? It's not fair for you to stop supporting her. Stop supporting her. She's scripted. What do you mean supporting her? Over an argument. The father and husband said, I think it's perfectly fair. It's my money and it's my decision when to cut it off. I'm sorry. I'm just like, this is where it goes today. And again, what he'll have is his wife and his daughter browbeating him, putting him down, whatever else, until they can influence him to become weaker to support that. Now, again, when the daughter goes on later on, develops a drug problem or anything else that comes with the negative outcomes of doing this, the mom is nowhere to be responsible for the authority of saying, well, I don't think it's fair for you not to cut off the money. A father of 4 on the East Coast told Fox at 4. I'm sorry. So not only that, you also have that the potential of other children following this behavior. Does the young woman truly need the money? Did she suddenly why did she totally? This is what I'm saying. A father of 4 on the East Coast asking these questions. Yo, she just said she's not going to stop doing it because it's easy money. These questions here, this is the ridiculous bull. This is a ridiculous bull that men ask that have no relevance to the fact of this story. He already's paying the car payment. She's not illegal. She is a legal adult. She decided to do this. Father said, hey, look, I don't think you should be doing this. Go work at McDonald's. She says, no, I want to do it because it's easy money. You don't need any more information after that. But we got another simp father over here asking, does she really truly need the money? It don't matter if she needs the money or not. He told her stop doing it. She says it's easy money. These are fathers that end up actually incentivizing their daughters to do it, trying to rationalize a bad decision. Why did she suddenly turn to scripting? She already told you back before when she said she wouldn't stop doing it. It's easy money. She's 22 years old. She has no idea about the long-forming consequences of a decision made today, especially in the world of social media, especially since a young coworker already told the father, especially since a young coworker is probably going to go tell more people in his workforce, and it's going to be known when she goes to apply for jobs when she decides she doesn't want to do scripting anymore. That will follow her through the rest of her life. And here we go with more of the simpish behavior. If the father was paying for his young daughter's car payments and now stopped because of her work or choice, then that's not right either. Really? So you should still keep on paying the car payments when she's decided that she wants to do something that he has to deal with his young coworkers going there and finding out that she's there. He's got to deal with, when everybody's done, the fallout from his daughter, right? So it's not right either. Really? What is he supposed to do when she's decided she wants to make her mind up and go do what she's going to do? She's an adult. She's making money. Then she can deal with it. Correct? But again, that's what I'm talking about. If he is not resolute in his authority and his responsibility, then again, he too will be blamed for the decision to support her and the bad outcomes that come with that. This is the proverbial damned if you do, damned if you don't. So again, he shouldn't stop paying the car payments. He should make it easier for her to keep on doing the scripting because she's not going to stop doing it, according to the daughter. And when she develops whatever problems come with that, whether it be a drug problem, whether it be she's out decided to up the money up to something a little bit more, I'm not just going to show, I'm going to allow the touching. And while allow touching, I'm going to allow people to start going in and out. When she starts doing all of that, then they turn to him now to say he's wrong again. And here we go. Here we go. This is where it gets worse. Plenty of people on Reddit share it. It just keeps going on. This is this problem with men. I'm sorry, males, not men. One person was particularly angry about the informant. Not if any family members in this scenario. What kind of a-hole tells a woman's parents they saw their daughter scripting? If that's any of his business to get into, I'm sorry. I saw your daughter at a public place doing something unsavory. my relationship with him is telling him, yo, that's your daughter. That's respect, not an a-hole. That's respect. A person, your gross coworker who goes to ogle women, she's making money. What do you mean go in there he's gross? How is he gross, but she's not? This is the logic of what I'm talking about. She's allowed to go out there and do that, but the coworker's gross to pay for her to have a good time, have money that she says is easy money. Your gross coworker goes to the strip club to oogle women, but then tattletales. He went to the man and told him, hey man, your daughter's doing this. I don't know, maybe out of concern because he happens to know the guy. And this man would still be. Here's my question. How would the young man that went and told the father respectfully that his daughter was doing this? How about the father who I would want to know? What about the daughter who didn't tell her dad that she was doing this? No responsibility again. Again, authority without responsibility. Now, if you're your own adult, you live at your own place, you don't have any funding coming from anybody else, your business is your business. But you can't live under someone's authority and say that you have your authority to do whatever you want. Then he says, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to take out the money. You say it's not fair. You're playing all sides. That's what I'm talking about. That's the person who wants authority without responsibility. If you make a decision, then you take all pushes that come with that decision, good or bad. But again, this is what kind of person blames someone else, right? Surprised the dad wasn't concerned about his coworker going to watch his daughter. No. That's not what happened here, dum-dum. What happened was this man was going to get his entertainment as he sees fit. When he got there, he saw the daughter there, and maybe he stayed, maybe he did whatever else, but he had enough sense to go back and tell the father, yo, man, your daughter was here. The daughter confronted so there's obviously he didn't put it on social media because he went to the father. That's called respect. You're dumb that don't understand anything about a young man going to an older man. Yo, I saw your daughter at the strip club, man. I wanted to let you know. That's crazy. Again, now if this girl had went and got into an accident, anything else, the parents would be totally blindsided by not knowing that their daughter's doing this. This girl is in college, still living on her family's dime because her father's paying car payments still. She don't have it all the way there. But you've got simple whistles coming in, white knights and heroes, and other women people promoting. The men are disgusting and gross, but the girls in here are doing this at a place where they're around gross people. She's saying it's easy money. She don't mind. It's a young man going to, which is in his God-given right. And again, you're talking about to oogle women. I'm sorry, women are in strip clubs looking at women too. Why would the dad be surprised about the coworker going and watching? He didn't know she was working there and he decided. Even if he did, what does that matter? It's his daughter he's concerned about, not the young guy. He can't stop any of that. Another person was quite angry at the father for no longer supporting his daughter. He does not need to support her bad decisions. She is not his leader. He is the leader. And that's the problem. You start doing that and then you reinforce. And what's going to happen when she gets bad outcomes in life later on? She's going to come back and blame you. I would rather saying, hey, I'm not going to support you. You have to make your own decisions moving forward because the outcomes are yours. That's the problem. This story right here talks about what I'm saying about leadership, real leadership. Because again, when he says, nope, I'm not going for that, they say you should still keep on funding. Why? Why should I keep funding if this is not the direction I'm going into? This is mutinous behavior. This is the problem here. And the wife saying, oh, no, I don't think you should stop supporting her too. Hold on. You don't care that our daughter's sitting over there on the pole. When something bad happens, you're going to go blame, but you didn't decide. I'm making a decision not to support her behavior and say, you know what? I can't stop you from doing it, but I can stop funding you and whatever I'm doing it. Now you go out there and you make your own bones. You know what she turns around and says? It's not fair. You don't let me do what I want you to do. You don't let me have my way. And again, if you want to do that, then you go out there and go make your own responsibilities and decisions, daughter. But she's not doing that, is she? She's not doing that. The man said it was wrong for adding conditions to his agreement with his daughters making car payments after the fact. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what it is. Supporting his daughter. If he's sending her to college, what is he not supporting her in other ways? Shaming your daughter, not being a man of your word. What So she has no responsibility to bring an honor to the family. You could just do that, make everybody look bad. The man's got to walk around with other men knowing that his daughter strips there. Not fully supporting his daughter to go through college. Yeah, college. But again, this stuff, why does he need to support her breaking the car if she has her own source of money? And it's easy money. This is the problem. And then when she goes out and gets, here's the other issue. When she goes out and gets married to a man, the father now has created conditions for the next man's problem. So when she decides to do this as your wife, what do you do then? Right? And I agree. You can't go and say, go work at McDonald's. That's not going to work. That's the improper thinking, is that you can convince a 22-year-old to work for $16, $17 an hour when they can make almost $1,000 a day. The better looking your daughter, more money she can make. You can't tell her that's a viable option as a father and expect her to do it just because it's right. That's not going to work. Unfortunately, minimum wage was stagnated for about 2 days. It don't matter if it's minimum wage or not. There's too much easy work for young women to do to get trapped up into this. And we know, again, this is going to have long implications if it's on her social media that she worked at this place, when she's going to go into what? Being a nurse, a doctor, anything else like that. And if she's faced with any hardships, she's always going to defer back to this easy money experience to say, this can get me out of whatever it is. And this person can raise a daughter in the future. Daggone shame, man. And you got the mom right there implicit in it. Right there implicit. Implicit, right?
Oh, say less.
Right. Mom's right in there saying, okay, fine. You know? It's not right that you stop it. Okay, great. You just have her go ahead and go and strip. I sent my daughter, raising my daughter to become a stripper. Why am I sending her to college when she could just be a stripper on her own? Why? Why? And again, the father can't have any pride as being a man. You just got to fund whatever it is. Just give me the money. That's fine. There's no responsibility for authority. You made a decision. You now have the responsibilities, good or bad outcomes. The money's a good outcome because you found a way to make more money. Bad outcome, bad choice, bad thing that comes out of a good choice to make more money. Good. You don't have enough money. You want to make money. You can go out, spend credit card. You got a job. Only bad part about it is the job you got, most fathers won't be good with. The mom's like, I'm just sorry that you just stopped off the car payments. Doesn't give a damn about her daughter. She's upset about it, but don't give a damn about the long part of it. And you know what she'll do? She'll sit right there and tell the father it was his fault for not stopping her. You had to pay the car payments. It's your fault. That's why a leader doesn't apologize. And again, if you let the daughter go ahead and do this and you're still funding it, she's now leading you. You're not leading her. Big time. Folks, that's my closing. Actually, no, we don't. We got to get to the nursing stuff. I'm sorry, folks. I'm a nurse. I got to talk to my nurses out there because nurses don't understand this is happening. Indentured servitude. Nurses hit with hefty debt when trying to leave hospitals, folks. That's right. The people taking care of you, they're getting hit with that. This is where they're trapping up nurses, folks. When Jackie Rum tried to quit her nursing job at Los Robles Regional Medical Center last fall over heavy workload and low staffing levels. That's right, folks. This whole thing has made low staffing levels. As far as I've been a nurse for almost 20 years come May, it's always been an issue with staffing in hospitals. Never have enough staff. You can pay double time, triple time, all the overtime you want. Nursing in itself is an extremely hard profession to be in. You are taking care of confused patients. You're taking care of a lot of people who have acute illnesses. If you have high blood pressure, asthma, whatever else, nurses are not taking care of you when you're taking medication daily. We're taking care of you at your worst. If you're in a hospital, you are at the most acute problem stage of being in a hospital, of being when you're admitted to a hospital. That means you're no longer outside of the realm of regular people care. Nurses have 5, 6, sometimes up to 10, 15 patients at that stage. That is a lot of emotional, physical, and spiritual absorption of a person at their worst in life. You're not taking care of star athletes that are trying to overcome an injury, or you're a personal trainer wrapping up Chad Ochocinco's ankles so he can go out there and make millions of more dollars. You're talking about elderly people who are confused, who have loss of bodily functions, who poop on themselves on the floor, on the bed, scratches you, are medicine, don't smell well, family members don't want to take care of them, and a whole bunch of other stuff that you got to take care of with. And you know what? Nurses get treated by their partners like that's a walk in the park. Nurses make great money, but again, what we have to do for that money, any nurse will tell you, is we don't get paid enough for taking care of the rest of the population at their worst. We don't take care of humans at their best. We take care of you at your worst. If you get admitted into the hospital, you are now within the realm, the field, baseball field, of you could potentially die at any point from whatever you're coming in the hospital with. And when I say that, you could even die from complications of getting help in the hospital. That's where you are. That's where nurses take care of you. But again, we'll give more credence to a person having an injury on a football field than we will a nurse taking care of people in their daily lives. This nurse here, Jackie Rum, she quit her job. And I've seen nurses come out into nursing at 22 years old, young, pliable, tight skin. And I've seen in the course of 2 years, them age 5 years. I've always told nurses they get attracted to the money. They get attracted to the overtime. I tell them, I've been a nurse for now 20 years. It's a marathon. What you're doing with all this extra working overtime, you're sprinting. You're going to burn yourself out. 20 years from now, you're going to need to work overtime, just like I work overtime in my nursing now. You're going to need to do that 20 years later. You're going to be burnt out. And if you're not, your body and your looks are going to suffer from it. True to this day. Because the more attractive nurses, they work in the Botox injections, all of that area. That's where they work at, where the doctor's office, everything's pretty much nice and fancy and everybody's in there to look good. The repayment was related to a contract Rum was required to sign when she took the job. Yes, they do that to nurses. There's a lot of stuff going on now with that. And this is one of my biggest issues with hospitals now. There's a nursing shortage. There has been for the last 20 years since I've been a nurse, and there were nursing shortages before then. So hospitals now, they will contract the nurse to work there for 2 years or 2 years or whatever amount of time, but they'll pay for things up front. So basically what you're doing is indentured servitude without all the extra steps. The contract Rum signed when she took the job at Thousand Oaks, California, a hospital owned by HCA Healthcare, the nation's largest for-profit hospital chain. Under the agreement, which is standard entry-level nursing work at the hospital, she became increasingly standard for other healthcare systems. She agreed to pay back the hospital for training. This is orientation training to work there, folks, not training for nursing school. If she quit or was fired before the 2-year contract expired. This is her here with the mask. Okay. I don't understand this because this is obviously a scrub. She's scrubbing in and out, and despite the agreement, she quit after 13 months because of physical and mental strain. Yes, that happens. Again, and when I said before, this article is going to tell you from the actual woman's her lips. She was unable to even take a 30-minute break during her 12-hour shifts. Does that happen as a nurse? Yes, absolutely. A lot of times you have to take a break and eat while you're actually still watching patients on the floor. As a result of leaving, she received 7 letters since October from a collection agency working for the hospital system, demanding the remaining $2,000 in training costs in the hospital that she owes, threatening to charge her interest and legal fees. She said she received about 10 weeks of training and mentorship, which is standard for any new grad nurse, but it fell short of what she expected, given the $4,000 value of the hospital placed on it. So again, they're paying for your orientation to work in a hospital to provide services for them so you can work as an employee. You got to give them 2 years, which is bullshit to do. But again, that's how they're keeping nurses, because when you get in here, nursing has a high turnover rate, meaning that people tend to leave as quickly as they come in. So many in-person classes cover material. So again, hospitals are doing the game now, so where they're basically paying you for training. They're paying you for training, but what they get is your service instead, which actually means you're just paying them. The practice of requiring repayment for training programs aimed at recent nursing school graduates, again, most nursing school graduates won't be told this when they're going to nursing school, has become increasingly common in the recent years. And again, I have some people who are about to go into nursing in my family, younger people, whatever else. They won't even watch this stream because they won't get this information in there. And you know what? I don't give a damn about telling them about it because they should be watching me. And again, this is a common practice with nursing students. What I see with young 20-year-olds, they want to go into nursing because either one, they have moral high hopes, meaning that they want to go into nursing because they want to help people. They have the Hippocratic oath of they want to do no harm. They want to heal people. They look at nursing as this high prestigious field of study, and it is before you work in it. Because once you get into hospital systems and you start receiving a paycheck, it turns into a bureaucracy where it's all about managing the minimal amount of staff, the maximum proficiency at the minimum level. When I say that, meaning that 9 times out of 10, you have 3 really experienced nurses on any given floor, pretty much mother henning a lot of newer nurses. Because the more experienced nurses, they move on, they move out, they get burnt out, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So what the hospitals have done, because a new nurse only needs to work in 1 year before they can actually become sort of experienced to be able to go to another place and earn higher pay. That's game for any nurse out there. You get yourself 1 year of experience on the med surge floor or med surge if you're in pediatrics or whatever else. Try not to specialize. And typically what you can do is go anywhere else and write your ticket. 1 year floor experience is all that's generally required. That was when I was in 22. That may have changed, but I don't think it's changed too much because experience is still experience and there's a shortage of nurses. You can go and travel nurse. You can do a whole lot of stuff with 1 year experience as a floor nurse. Pretty much it opens up heaven's door for a nurse. But a lot of hospitals got hip to that game. Still giving you game. So what they've done is said, we're going to contract these nurses for 2 years. We're going to pay for their orientation because, again, these young nurses, they're so hungry for a job. They're not sure and they're not understanding. And again, this is parents' fault. They're not understanding that they're in a field of high demand. But you got hospitals now saying, why are we going to cover the cost for training a new employee, the classes, everything else? And it's a business expense. I get it. So what we're going to do is we're going to charge them. They got to give us 2 years of work, which is way more money than the $4,000 here that they or whatever the training expenses that they've covered. A nurse probably needs to work probably 6 months to pay that back of actual work time, but 2 years means you've got guaranteed staff for no matter how good or bad your hospital is run. And this is just if I was running a hospital and I was all about for profit or not profit, doesn't matter. Still same thing's going to be going. Okay, so here we go. Have become the recent requirement of requiring the practice of requiring repayment in training programs aimed at recent nursing school graduates has become increasingly common in the recent years. This has never been a practice when 20 years ago with me. With some hospitals requiring nurses to pay back as much as $15,000 if they quit or are fired. So if you're fired, that's it. So again, in some states where they're right to work states, you don't have a union protecting you, that's going to be an issue. And I do believe that you're fully into the union if you're all probation after 90 days. So they could get you in before that. And you're still on the hook for this money. And these young nurses, they don't really know because what they're really looking for is a job and opportunity, and they feel it's so scarce. If they or fire before their contract is up, according to a dozen nursing contracts reviewed by NBC and interviews with nurses, educator, hospital administration, and labor organizations. Hospitals say the repayment requirement is necessary to help them recoup investments they make in training recent nursing school graduates to incentivize them to stay. That's the part right here. Amid a tight labor market, right? Because it's not incentivizing them, it's pretty much making them stay, terrorizing them to stay because they could always be going to a better hospital, which could give them better opportunities. This keeps them in place. But some nurses say the system has left them feeling trapped. Exactly. Incentivizing is something that it allows you to achieve more, to make you climb up, to do better, to stay at a place. Terrorizing is the fear of feeling trapped in their jobs, afraid, fear. to speak out about unsafe working conditions for fear of being fired. Basically, it's $15,000 to silence you. These training programs do not provide nurses any sort of new qualifications. That's exactly right, because these are trainings that you need to just go into the hospital as a new hiree. Rather, employers are passing on to nurses the cost of basic on the job training that's required for any RN at any hospital. Then they're using these contracts to lock nurses into their jobs or risk these devastating financial penalties. Because again, if you make them afraid to leave, they will stay. Having that debt hanging over them means that nurses have the harder time advocating for safe conditions for themselves and for their patients. Because if you speak up, we might fire you. So that means you got 2 years of silence. And if all hospitals did this, you'd have a revolving door of whatever you want to do, including giving nurses unsafe patient assignments, which has happened to me many a time. The ACA said in a statement that its programs are developed by nurse educators as an important investment in our colleagues and demonstrate our commitment to advocating and advancing nursing professions. Bullshit. Sorry. The hospital system, which is 184 hospitals, said they allows the nurse to receive training across a wide range of specialties such as oncology, cervical services, critical care, and pediatrics. It also gives nurses the option to transfer to other facilities. That's pretty much in any healthcare system. That's not isolated to this system. Giving our substantial investment in professional development program. This is just on the board training because you need staff. Participants to commit to stay with us for a certain period of time after completing the training. 2 years is not a certain period of time. That's a damn relationship. You got people in relationships that don't stay long as that. During the course of commitment, nurses are eligible for promotion and have the flexibility to pursue opportunities at any of our more than 2,300 sites of care across the country. I mean, gobbledygook. That's what this is. And again, the practice is caught the attention of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which in September began investigating forms of debt. This is a form of debt created by employers for their employees through training programs. Keyword. Now, this is just in nursing. If they're doing it in nursing, I'm sure we're going to find out. And I love my podcast for this, or my broadcast, because you know why? We're going to find out later other areas that are doing this as well. And I'm going to say, remember that nursing broadcast that I did where I talked about that they're creating debt now through training programs when you take on a job. You're going to work at a place and they're giving you debt. You already leave college, nursing school with debt. Now they're giving, so you've got back end debt from going to nursing school, college alone, which we know the cost of college now in the form of student loans, right? Then you go to an employer. Now you have another debt that is now in collections, because college debt is a loan. This is a debt, a collection debt, which dings your credit. That's the game, folks. The agency is in the process of reviewing the training programs, repayment programs, as a type of debt product being offered to workers similar to student loans, and assessing whether the agency should take additional oversight over the actions. That's what's happening with hospitals, with young nurses, parents who have children that are going to nursing school. You should know this. And nurses such as myself, who are 20 years into nursing, that makes me a daggone dinosaur. This is something we should be aware of and talking to new nurses about. And honestly, I do not understand why this is not being warned about at the college level. This is the problem. The people above you do not protect the people below you. And again, here we go. Undoubtedly to trap you. Labor experts say the employers in a growing number of industries have been using similar training repayment requirements as a form of debt to keep workers from leaving their jobs in a tight labor market. Tight labor market does not mean you don't have jobs. It just means that hospitals can't keep their staff because they tend to seek out other opportunities. Game is, you want to get ED experience or ER experience, emergency room department experience as a nurse. Your local hospital won't take new nurses. What do? You travel to a hospital within an hour range, work there for a year, and then you could come back as an experienced nurse at the hospital that's local to you. Well, what does this hospital do? They say, no, you got to stay with us as 2 years. The reason why the nurse wants to work at this hospital is because it's closer to where they live. People can't just go pick up and move. Not everyone can pick up and move across the country just to go to a location because that has the job they want. And a lot of people aren't afraid. They're afraid to leave their families or local areas to go because, again, they don't know anybody there. Not everybody's built like that. And at 22 years old, I doubt the majority of the nurses going in there are married and have established or have families where they could just pick up and leave, or they have another spouse that can support them. And if they get fired from that job, now they're in a different place, more debt, and all the money to move. I mean, literally, how is that a good decision for a 22-year-old? Along with nurses, workers in trucking, retail, and pet grooming industries have also raised concerns with the what is that? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that's the CFPD, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, over onerous debts they've incurred through employer training programs. That's the issue now. You have to go and ask if there are any employer training programs in which you now will have a debt. Imagine meeting a girl. She's in the hospital, a nurse, 22 years old. You're talking to her on a date. Wow, you make good money. And you don't know, along with her student. And this is the thing I keep talking about with people. When you meet people, guy or girl, you got to talk about debt, man. You got to ask people, what is their financial situation? I'm telling you now, young people, when you do not talk about finances with a person, you will find out that your fine ass is in trouble. Okay. Because again, you're not seeing the debt she's incurring or he's incurring. They're a trucker, great. Truckers make good money. Yeah, but they got to get through past the training repayment program that they might have a year or two to be in. So you want to have a baby, you want to have a family, it's time to settle down, but they're only in year one of the repayment program. Now you're unhappy about it. Now the relationship's going awry, but we got a baby on the way. Now I want to get a divorce because you're not home all the time. You're not having the uncomfortable conversations about the things that matter. It is only about rocking the boots, getting in the sheets, spreading them cheeks, and getting that D. The main purpose is, in many instances, the main purpose is not to provide real useful training to the workers. Of course, it's not. It's just simply to tell them the mechanisms of how to do their job. It's simply just to recoup that cost, right? The main purpose has, in many instances, be simply a mechanism to keep workers from leaving their job through debt and using the training part as basically a pretext to make it appear justifiable. And California passed a law in 2020 to prevent hospitals from charging employees for job-related training required by the employer that isn't relating to get a state-mandated license or certification. Still, the HCA still continue to send letters to former nurses, including RUM, to seek payment for training costs. They're still trying to collect that money. And they're saying, we're going to see this expand exponentially. Here's the next layer of game coming to you all, is where they're going to start charging you when they hire you. And it's going to go into many sectors where they no longer will pay for the workforce. The workforce will be now, I mean, again, now you can't afford the housing market, or they sent you, now houses are underwater. Once they get done with that, the next wave of debt slaves is all these single women, all the independent ladies, all dependent. Put your hands up, hands up, hands up.
We're going to put hands up, hands up, hands up, independent women. Let me go get that job. And now I'm in debt, on top of credit card debt, on top of my college debt,
which they're overwhelming. We're trying to get forgiven. That may or may not happen. Now I've got to take on
job debt because I got a new job.
And if I don't have that debt, if I leave in 2 years or I get fired, guess what?
I guess, I don't know, maybe Tyrone can pay for it. Maybe Raheem can pay for it. Maybe Brad could pay for it. I don't know.
But, you know, I'm a bad bee, right? Stand up. Here you go. And this is going to become exponential, right? Casey Penning said she thought she had no choice but to sign it's being presented as you have no choice but to sign a 2-year contract. These are new nurses, right? They have no idea. They just want the job. and agreed to repay her employers as much as $7,500 for training if she wanted a job out of nursing school at a major health center in the Denver area. So it is not just California. California put a stop to it. Salute to California. Shout out to California, man. She said she received some training from the hospital in the first few months on the job that included online modules. That's right. Most of the training is done online. Several weeks of in-person lectures and 3 months of shadowing a more senior nurse. Right. And then she got a little value from the formal instruction and had limited time spending shadow her mentor, given the heavy workflow at the hospital, right? Because the mentor has to actually do nursing. It's very hard to be a nurse and teach another person how to do it. They pretty much got to watch and get in there where they want. And they're deer in headlights, terrified because they're right in the mix of it. That's natural. Despite the contract, she said she quit after 1 year because she believed the high patient to nurse ratio. California is 5-1. In other states, it's more than just that. It's more than one. Creating an unsafe work environment that she feared could harm her patients. Because if you do actually make some mistakes, they will take your job and license away. And you still also owe that debt. Hey, dirty, baby, I got your money. Don't you worry. I said, hey, baby, I got your money. Tell them, Mary. Nursing. Said, hey, baby, I got your money. Don't you worry. I said, hey, sign this contract and give me that money. All right, here we go. Said other nurses continue to stay at their job despite wanting to leave because of the fear of having to pay back training costs. This does not create good working environments, folks. You're not buying a product. You're an employee. An employee gets on the job training all the time because they want you to be a good employee. This is undoubtedly to trap you. Penning said, who left her job in October. She's having an issue. They're having issue. What did I just say earlier? They have an issue keeping nurses there. It's a retention issue. So the solution to the retention issue is to trap you. To make it so if you leave, you will owe just enough money that you can't afford it. It makes you uncomfortable. And I'm sure that number is going to go up. It's not going to stop here. At UC Health, where she worked, the official decided last fall to stop requiring repayment from nurses who left before their contracts were up. We're looking for other ways to incentivize nurses to pay. Right. Other ways such as, how about offering them more money? How about increasing nurse to staff ratio? But a lot of times hospitals are not increasing nursing pay because, again, they can get cheap professional labor. Programs like the one UC Health can use at UC Health can cost $60,000 to $100,000 per nurse for the first year. These costs include having to pay a new nurse a salary with benefits for several months before they can take on their own caseloads, as well as paying a higher hourly rate to more senior nurses who mentor them. Right, but generally a mentor gets a couple dollars more and teach them for 3 to 6 months. And again, they're for proper days. These places are making billions of dollars. What they don't want to do is pay their main workload. You want to make nurses cheap, expensively cheap labor. In terms of repayment agreements, those who have been the national standard for many, many years, it is simply just that it has been looked through a different lens, and we're no longer requiring this makes me so indentured servitude, right? And Emily, I won't give her the last name. She said that her students frequently enter into contracts. This is in Texas too. She worries that the practice contributed nursing shortage by locking students into jobs they are unhappy with and keeping them from switching into other areas of nursing during the first years of their career. When they get stuck in these unsafe situations or in short-staffed situations, they can burn out so easily that they will just say, I can't do this anymore. I don't have enough experience or perspective to know that there's other kind of jobs out there. So I really think this is going to exacerbate our nursing shortage, right? And when you go in a hospital and you need good nursing care, you're going to find a hard time finding one, right? This is ridiculous. Closing arguments, folks. Closing arguments. Today, folks, I'm so happy to be back, and thank you all for people who listen to my On the Road with Uncle Phil. We'll still have that. We'll bring that next month. You'll get more of the how I think while I'm away. Not always in the broadcast spectrum, but just more on the road. We do it, hit the road and take it from there. I really think we had some great contents that we covered today, folks. When we talked about my front beginning of the broadcast monologue about leadership qualities and why you should never apologize. And I still hold that true. I do believe that firmly. And again, that is for anyone who wants to be in a leadership role when you are doing that. And again, the people who are following your leadership can always leave if they don't like where you're leading them. That is the power of being a follower, is that you don't have to follow anymore. You can always go find your own path. Problem with that is that a lot of times followers, they want to criticize because they have the safety of not making those decisions. And again, we talked about that. That's in the front part of the broadcast. Middle part, we talked about, as far as the father with the daughter being a stripper and, his money and his choice, my body, my choice, his money, his choice, decision. And again, how the people around you are not, they're implicit in making you support bad decisions. I'd be heartbroken if my daughter did that, but I would respect her adult decision to do it, but she wouldn't get a damn dime from me. You better believe it. And I wouldn't talk to her either. And that's because of the amount I've put into her. And again, if your only reason is that it's easy money, why the hell are you going to college? That's somebody who wants a cake and eat it too. And on top of that, that is going to be a disaster for another man to inherit. One of the problems I have with fathers nowadays is that you create problems for the next generation to inherit. You don't raise your daughters properly, and they become a problem for a young man that's going to make them a wife. They become a problem for the young children that will make them mothers. And you don't do anything to correct them now because you're too damn trying to be the damn friend. You're not raising them to be a better wife or a woman or a mother. You're raising them to be someone else's problem. They're your princess, but someone else's problem. And to the fathers out there, I could say you, okay? Because and the mothers too, who are implicit with that, and they don't see the inequities or the deficiencies with their daughter. It's their little princess, their little problem child that's going to grow up to be a monster for someone else. Then you got a young man along the way thinking that this is the one for him, and really she's the curse for him, not the gift. Everybody says you're a good catch, but a catch for how long? A good catch of a fish will spoil if it's not eaten in a few days. Even a good catch of fish has an expiration date. It will spoil, it spells rot. Leave a fish out for a week and tell me if it's a good catch. Okay? We talked about France, how they're doing with the protests today, and the leadership there that the President Macron, the pensions, they're trying to raise the pension age up from 62 to 64, and people are losing batshit crazy over that one. And we've also talked about too as well the nurses that are having a hard time in our story just now about the growing industries that are going to charge you for training you to take on a job. They have work positions that are needed, and you're going to be responsible now for up to 15, 20, however many thousands of dollars, and they're doing it with nurses. It's the perfect place to start the sample to do it everywhere else. They're doing it in trucking. They're doing it in other areas where the future is making you pay for the training to get the job that they have an opening for. I don't even understand how that's possible, but that's what's going to happen. And again, where are the parents? Where is the industry, the college careers that are protecting them and saying, hey, you all need to know this is happening? Every nursing school should be informing students about this practice and how not to go along with this practice. There should be nursing schools banding together, identifying hospitals that have these practices and not sending their nursing students or warning them about these hospitals that would do it. That's how you affect change. But the problem is nursing schools are probably in on it. Allegedly, I don't know. They're probably in on it. Probably. I mean, why else would you send lambs to the slaughter, right? It's like sending your kids in a room where a sleeping leopard is in there and saying, go get me my pocketbook or my wallet out of the drawer. A damn leopard's in there sleeping. You wouldn't send your kids into there, and if you did, you wouldn't be surprised if they didn't come back out in 20 minutes, so they weren't coming back out at all, right? Any which way, folks, I will see you all tomorrow. I am so happy to be back. I'm going to try to get a little bit more interesting stories, some comedy stuff. Oh yeah, don't forget about, if you're out there and you want to go see Rick Ross, the boss, the boss rapper, Rick Ross, he's got Buffalo, folks. Man owns, I think, 400, maybe 100 something 20 acres, 400 something acres of land. He's got Buffalo. his buffalo problem is proof of what land ownership is all about. He's got buffalo, feed him carrots, cows. He's living on his own. These people who are doing it, folks. And if you want to be like Rick Ross, own some buffalo or something like that, some cows, go to ancestrylands.com, buy some land. Donate to the platform. I forgot all day. Oh my gosh. Hour and 44 minutes. No one told me donate to the platform. Folks, you can donate to the broadcast, $ Ancestrylands on Cash App, Ancestrylands on Venmo, folks. I am your host, live with Uncle Phil. Take care. Have a great day, and we're out. See you.